Welcome to episode 3 of the Libby Show podcast. So in today's podcast, I'm going to be talking about why I choose to work as a food courier and what I like about it. So at the start of September, I was unceremoniously dismissed from my permanent full-time job. This came after months of tensions between me and several people at the company. For context on this, I had been warned by the person who hired me that people at the company had strong personalities and made up their mind about people very quickly. I dismissed that though because I wanted the job, and I also ignored the tensions because the pay was very good. But despite my best efforts, that wasn't good enough, and so at the start of September, I was shafted. It is worth noting, though, that the industry I was in is incredibly toxic, but that's a topic for another podcast. So anyway, I spent all of September applying for regular jobs, and then I had a brainwave. As a regular customer of Uber Eats myself, I thought, I should buy a bike so that I can generate an income while I job searched. And so within a couple of days, I had bought a road bike and I started delivering around my local area. And eventually I was able to generate a full-time equivalent wage through working as a bicycle courier. I was, however, sick of the inconsistent nature of it though, and so after deciding to stop job hunting, I started again and wound up getting a job offer on New Year's Eve and started that job in early January. That company was incredibly toxic. There had been red flags from even before I received the offer, but I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. But after 2 weeks in the role, the red flags were way too much and I quit. For more context on that job, 2 people were fired 5 days after starting and a further 2 quit on the second week before I quit. I have no idea if more people quit or were fired after I left. I don't know. What I do, however, know though is that the management at that company did not truly care about performance, and my performance was good. Based on my sales results, I was in the top 35% of the group I'd started with. 22 people had started when I did. But anyway, they cared about silly things like what someone wears to work. And they also expected staff to start before they officially started getting paid, therefore offering their services for free. Yes, they wanted their staff to work for free. And it also didn't fit in with my acting studies, which I've been doing for the last 7 years and am very close to finishing. So anyway, when I quit that job, I knew that I could always go back to the food delivery apps. And that's exactly what I did. I mean, I'd never stopped, but I only did a few deliveries each day and was extremely selective. While I had the full-time job, I just did it for extra money because having had a number of dodgy employers, I don't think it's smart to rely on only one source of income. I think it's way smarter to have multiple income streams so that you have a backup if something happens to your main income source. So anyway, fast forward to a week ago. It's Monday the 26th of January, Australia Day, and so I went back to the delivery apps with the intention of it being full-time again. As it would happen, I was having an excellent night with deliveries, and I was on track to earn my minimum daily target. But unfortunately, that didn't happen because while I was picking up a couple of orders, my bike was stolen. I had left it locked to a pole near the restaurants, and in the time I was inside, all of 5 minutes, yes, only 5 minutes, I checked the time on my phone, it was no more than 5 minutes. When I went outside after collecting the orders, it wasn't there, and I had a moment where I was like, where's my bike? And I looked around, but I couldn't see it, and then I realized that my worst fear had been realized, and that it had, in fact, been stolen. So, although I won't recover the bike, because bike theft is so common, And because stolen bikes are near impossible to recover, I wanted the police to have a record on the off chance that they do catch the bike thief so they can't steal any more bikes. Luckily, I had money coming in the next day, so I was able to replace the bike. And while some people downgrade when their bike is stolen to reduce the likelihood of another being stolen in the future, I decided to upgrade. I had to upgrade because, I use my bike for 20 to 40 hours a week. And so I needed something that has the ability to deal with that kind of usage and can go up and down hills, some roads with potholes, some roads that are uneven. Basically, a lot of the roads are poor condition, even in the city. I did look into insurance as well, but by the time you factor in the insurance premiums and the excess, also known as out-of-pocket expenses, it just isn't worth it, and in the long run, you could actually end up paying more than the cost of a replacement bike. So anyway, the purpose of today's podcast is to share with you the reasons why I work as a bicycle courier. Get paid to exercise is number one. So I have a road bike, so I get paid to exercise. When I started, I had to suspend my gym membership, but I still needed a way to exercise. So working as a bicycle courier would combine making money with exercise. I opted to get a road bike because I don't like e-bikes and see it as cheating. On a side note, I especially hate rideshare bikes. They litter the footpath, for one thing. They are so annoying. But aside from that, I would much rather have my own bike than use a rideshare bike. And I see hiring a bike, as many food couriers do, to be a waste of money. At the end of it, you have nothing left. Yes, bikes depreciate and get wear and tear, but it's still yours and you can do whatever you want with it. I also don't want to eat into my profits by adding an expense that I don't need. I'd rather just have that one-off expense at the start and maintenance expenses, which are hopefully rare. But as a general rule, I try to keep my costs to a minimum, though the reality is you will have unexpected expenses. When I had the first bike, I had to replace the tyres, including just a few weeks before it was stolen. I had to replace the brakes a couple of times, and I'd also had a couple of flat tyres. So basically the bike had tyres that had an inner tube, as the new one does too. Anyway, getting back to the point. If you can't afford a gym membership, it is a great way to exercise while making money. I did, however, reactivate my gym membership a couple of weeks ago when I had that toxic job because the gym actually complements the work as a bicycle courier because it helps with fitness, which then makes me more efficient when I'm out on delivery jobs. Now, number two, and this is probably the biggest one, you have total freedom. Anyone who knows me knows how much I value freedom. That was actually the worst thing about the bike being stolen, aside from the fact that someone actually thought it would be okay to take someone's means of earning money. I had to walk home and I didn't have my bike for a night, which felt very weird. And given how much I cycle, yeah, as I said, it just felt really weird to not be able to cycle. As a bicycle courier, you're self-employed, so you can work as much or as little as you want. If you want to work at 7 a.m., you can. If you want to work at midnight, you can. If you want to work at midday, you can. If you want to only work a couple of hours each day, you can. If you want to work 12 hours, you can. You're in total control of how much you work. You're also in control of what you wear. I generally work in shorts and a t-shirt, normal exercise gear, or a skirt and a t-shirt. If it's raining though, I will wear the company supplied rain jacket. It really depends on my mood as to what I wear though. But you can't wear what you want when you work in a traditional job because you have a manager breathing down your neck about how there's men in the workplace and wearing skirts isn't appropriate. Anyway. Along with that freedom, you don't have to answer to anyone. As long as you deliver the orders, That's all that actually matters, rather than a bunch of silly stuff that micromanagers tend to obsess over. You can choose the orders that you accept and those you decline. There are certain areas that I won't go to because by the time I go there, I would have to return to my area where there's a lot of restaurants and shops. So I don't deliver to areas where there's no restaurants or shops. It's just not efficient. And I could end up losing possible income through lost orders. So it's just not smart to take those orders. If you were in traditional employment, you would have to do the work you don't particularly want to do. Number 3, you get rewarded for your efforts. Most people know that if you're in a traditional job with a boss, you don't get rewarded for your efforts. But when you work as a bicycle courier, you do. You directly see that reflected in your earnings. So the more you work, the more you earn. I'm currently working on working smarter, not harder, to increase my earnings though. I mean, there are of course, time limitations, but you aren't restricted by how a manager wants to reward you. You're very much in control of things. And with every delivery you do, you can see your earnings increase. On the topic of earnings, in some instances, you can actually earn more than what you would in a traditional job. Number 4, you can work on a schedule to fit in with your life. Although this is similar to the total freedom point, you can work on your schedule. So I study acting and need a role that fits around that but doesn't restrict my earnings. So working as a bicycle courier works well because I don't have to operate according to someone else's schedule. That means I can still work 40 hours a week if I want to, and I'm not restricted by the fact that most companies only operate 9 to 5. Number 5, there's a community of bicycle couriers. Now, that community is not just for bicycle couriers, it's kind of for any food couriers. You know, there's multiple Facebook groups where you can get to know how others operate. And on the odd occasion, you may even strike up a convo with someone while you're picking up food. That can sometimes be good. I mean, even though you're unlikely to ever see them again, it is still a cool thing, like to have that sort of relatability and that common interest. Of course, it isn't all fun. There are some things that I absolutely hate about being a bicycle courier, but I'll save that for another podcast. For this one, I wanted to focus on the things I do enjoy about it. So anyway, that was episode 3 of the Libby Shaw Show podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you listen next time. Bye!